Welcome everybody to week number 1 of the Campus Leadership Challenge in August, all about careers. In this week and in this video, I'm going to be telling you about the 5 stages we'll be talking about in the Learn Week, and also digging into a little bit around your values, your skills, your networks, professionalism, and how you can get an edge. So without further ado, let's get into topic number 1, all about your values. For our first topic around values, I'd like you to consider this statistic. In 2017, Gallup did a study and they put out a report called the State of the Global Workforce. In Australia, out of every 7 workers, less than 1 worker they found, and this data's pre-COVID, loved what they did and were passionate about their job. Less than 1 in 7, 14% to be specific. Now what does that mean? I don't know this is exactly how statistics work, but if you see 7 people walking along the street, less than 1 of them is going to a job that they love. Most of us are either neutral about our jobs or we actively dislike it. And this doesn't make a ton of sense. Why? Because when we graduate university, if you go to work 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year for 40 years, that's 80,000 hours. Now, why would you do something for 80,000 hours you don't enjoy doing? It doesn't make any sense. So when we look at values, the number 1 predictor, in my experience, about jobs I've done where I've really enjoyed them for the long haul, not just the short haul, but for the long haul, is how well they align with my values. So when we look at values, and I didn't explore this until I was 25, we want to know what our values are. What are values even conceptually? Values are how you do everything. I believe that your values at home, at work, day by day are the same. I believe that your values are things that you aspire towards. A great way to look into your values is to think about who are some people that you admire? Who do you look up to? What is it about them that you admire? They could be a celebrity, they could have lived 500 years ago. They could be your parent or your best friend, a teacher or a colleague. But what is it about them that you like? What is it about them that you say, oh wow, if I was a little bit more like that, I think my life would be even better. These are a great insight into your values. They're aspirational. They're things that every day you can come back to and you can say, did I live out those values? Now to explore these, one of the things you might want to look at when we look at values, there's a fantastic video on YouTube. It's about 3 minutes long called What If Money Were No Object by Alan Watts. It's absolutely brilliant. And he says, if you were to think about a career, if you didn't have to worry about what you were paid to do, but you could do anything, and you didn't have to worry about the money, what would it be? So for you, if money were no object, if you didn't have to worry about that income, what would you do? How would you spend your time? Who would you spend it with? Where would you spend it? What sort of clients or customers would you like to be working with? Would you be inside or outside, by yourself or with a team? What are the things that in your experience, in the jobs you've had, the group projects you've had, the volunteering you've had, when are you at your happiest? And when do you find that you fall into that flow state, you just have a great time? If you can surface these principles can become your values. And only once we're conscious of them can we try to live them out with intention each and every day. So as you go through this challenge, and particularly this Learn Week, I'd love for you to think about, can you make a list of 5 values? 5 words, quotes, phrases, things that you say, if I lived out these 5 things each day, each interaction, I think that's me at my best. And that's a great starting place. So the first thing we're going to talk about in Learn Week are values. The second thing that we're going to talk about in Learn Week of Careers is skills. Now, in Australia, according to the Australian Financial Review Top 100 Graduate Employers magazine that came out at the end of 2019, just 7% of Aussie employers say that your grades are assessed and very important in the application process. As many employers say that they don't even look at your grades as the ones say that these are the most important thing. Now, why does this matter to you? Does this mean you shouldn't go to university? No, not at all. There's some great data from the World Bank. They looked at over 1,000 different sources, and they saw about a 9% year-on-year return in income, especially in career progression, for each additional year of education. So there's a great case that you should be at school, at university, but should that be the only thing? Definitely not. Your skills will make you stand out. Employers pay you to be there. They pay you for your skills, your mindsets, and the results you get. And this is totally different to being at university. At uni, you're a student, otherwise known as a customer. You pay to be there. When you graduate, you're paid to be there. It's exactly opposite. We have to think about these things differently. Yes, when we're at university, we develop our skills, but when we're in the workforce, we deploy our skills. So as you transition from development into deployment, we need to know that this change is coming. But we also want to help you prepare for that. The employment data is also really, really clear. Fundamentally, there are two core categories of skills that future graduates need. Firstly, there's leadership and emotional intelligence. This is everything from teamwork, communication, planning an organization, leadership, those skills that are about working with other people. We need that category. I call these human skills. And the other category is technological skills. And if you're like, well, I'm not studying something technological, well, we live in a technological world. We want to use project management tools like Trello or Asana or Monday. We want to be able to do video editing or podcasting. And now you can do it. I'm recording this off an iPhone with a lampshade for light. We don't need high-tech solutions, but employers want to see that you're out there, you're trying, you've given it a go, you're playing in a technological world because that's where their clients live. That's how they pay their bills and make money too. So these two skill sets, one, we want to develop everything human-based, leadership, emotional intelligence, how do you work with others? And secondly, we want technological skills. Now, how can you use this? In a Learn Week, we're going to give you schools. We're going to give you skills, we're going to give you frameworks, we're going to give you things to try so that next week in Experiment, you can give them a go and see if they work in your life. But importantly, the principle here when we look at skills is 1 + 1 = 3. And 3s always beat 1s. What does that mean? If you've got one skill, you're really good at one thing, well, that's awesome, except lots of people are. If you've got one degree, you're like, I got good grades. It's like, awesome, so did lots of people. But if you're like, I got good grades and I taught myself how to code, or I got good grades and I taught myself how to code and I led a student club or an organization. Your Venn diagram of skills makes you stand out. You become a market of one, or at least you become a very competitive player in the market. If you can layer human skills and technological skills together, 1 + 1 = 3. You have a much bigger return just by adding something new than only having one thing. Now, does this mean if you've got strengths, you shouldn't go all in? Not at all. But there's 168 hours in a week. If we looked at our screen time, we cut down some of the social media apps by an hour or two, all of a sudden we've got 5, 10, 20 hours a week based on our coaching community that we know can go into getting a new skill or getting something that'll lead to you standing out. So skills will help you stand out. At uni, you're developing, which is what this challenge is all about, but you're getting ready to deploy those skills. So this week in Learn, when you look at your skills, think about what do you want to develop? By the end of this year, by the end of your degree, what are the skills that you would love to have? And if you're not getting them in your degree, that's fine. Find them elsewhere. YouTube, podcast, online courses, there are so many that are free. But what skills could you get to help you? The third skill I'd love to talk to you about today in this Learn Week is all about networking. Now, networking is absolutely fundamental to our career. Who we know is much more likely to introduce us to our next job or opportunity or client than what we see on a public job ad. In 2017, Business Insider put out an article that said 70% of jobs in Australia are not advertised. And in 2020, in June, LinkedIn updated that and said, actually, it's more like 75 to 80% of jobs are not advertised. So what does that mean? About 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 jobs are actually out there publicly advertised. Anywhere you've ever seen a job before, on Career Hub, on Facebook, on Seek, on Indeed, on Jora, on a poster on the wall on campus. If you've seen it with your eyes or heard it on the radio or a podcast, it represents less than 25% of the whole job market. It's literally the tip of the iceberg. So how do you access this market? It's through your networks. Now in 2020, and this is true years ago, but especially and never more true today, LinkedIn is a must-have. LinkedIn is no longer a nice-to-have. And that doesn't mean just any old LinkedIn, I know what it is. It means be on it, be using it, be engaging with it. In our networking profiles, we always say, connect, engage, and create. So that's 3-part strategy to networking. Connection. During the connection stage, you need a profile that someone clicks on you, they know what you're about, they know what you're studying, they know what you're interested in. It needs to be up to date. There is no need, in my opinion, for a resume in 2020. Some employers still want them. I have no idea why. Everything that's on a resume should be on LinkedIn. Now, you can tailor a resume to an employer. We'll talk about that in a second. But your LinkedIn should have everything. It can have rich media, it can have videos, it can have audio clips, it can have images. You can quantify your results, you can add your certificates. The LinkedIn profile should have everything on there. But once you're on there, you don't just want to leave it there. It's like having a perfect resume that sits on your desktop. Yeah, great, that's safe, but safe is risky in 2020, especially in this market. Once your LinkedIn profile is ready, it's time to go out there. You don't get ready for the big dance at home and put on your nice dress or your nice suit, do your makeup, do your hair, and then just sit on the couch and go, I'm so ready for this big dance. Once you're ready, you go out there. And the first thing you do is you want to meet people, you want to connect with people. So just like in your career, once you're ready, once your big dance ready, AKA the profile's ready, it's time to connect. Now that means finding people at companies you want to work for. It means using the alumni tool, which we'll share this week. Finding people from your university who studied your degree and are out in the workforce. It means going to their pages and following them and engaging with their content. It means sending a connection request. And remember, it's called a connection request. You're not saying I'm your friend like on Facebook, and it's less passive than Instagram where you're like, I'll just follow you. You're saying I'd like to connect with you. I'd like to learn about you. Be more interested in them, and then they'll be interested in you. Someone once told me, if you want advice, ask for a job. Say, I would like a job with you. And they'll be like, I've got some advice for you, buddy. But if you want a job, ask for advice. Be more interested in them. As Stephen Covey says in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, seek first to understand before seeking to be understood. People like talking about themselves, so give them a chance to talk about themselves, their career journey, where they went, what they would do if they were in your situation again. And as you expand and you connect and you reach out to people, if you go to an event, connect with the speakers. And you can even connect with speakers before an event. Say, I saw you speaking at this event. I'm so excited to hear from you. I've learned about your journey. I'd love to ask you a question about this. And you'll stand out. 95% of people don't go to the events. 95% of people who go to the events swarm the speakers after the event and they get flooded with connection requests. Be the one that reaches out first. Do the thing that makes you stand out. And once you're connected and following people, comment and engage. We always say comments are free. If someone puts something in the news feed, they'd love people to comment on there. I love it every time you comment on my posts. So jump in, be the person who goes first, because leaders go first. And in this market, we're looking for leaders. And finally, create. In the networking scene, you want to be adding value. It's about what you can give. I spoke with a young man today on the phone and we were talking about the idea of creating something in a leadership community he's a part of. And he said, well, I could never do it for them because then I'm just helping them. I'm like, exactly. You've got to give in order to get. The more you put out, the more content, the more slides, the more slide decks, the more videos, the more free challenges I put out to the world, I know and believe more will come back to me. But I'm good. We're in a great place. I'm going to keep putting out because it's the right thing to do. So as you go through this journey this month and you're thinking about building your networks, think about what can you do for them? How can you help the person you want to get in front of? Because if you can find a way to help them get what they want, all of a sudden, a time pops up in their calendar and they're free to chat with you. So during your networks, it's all about humans. It's a human game. Remember, networks become friends and colleagues and business associates. The people you're in this challenge with right now, you might end up working with, you might end up marrying. Who knows, the world's a crazy place. But life's a human game. So in this month, in this Learn Week, think about what are some more effective ways that you can build your networks? What events can you go to on Meetup or Eventbrite? Where can you find people? And then once you find them, not what can you get, but what can you give? And if you do that, you'll build strong networks and even stronger relationships. The fourth thing I want to talk about in the Campus Leadership Challenge on Careers this month in August, and particularly in this week in the Learn Week, is all about professionalism. Now, employers want to know that you're ready to enter a professional environment, and there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. Firstly, as we've already talked about in networking, having a LinkedIn presence, being online and that looking professional. That means having a headshot, that means having things up to date, it means having your name written with capital letters, no spelling mistakes in your profile, things are linked and coordinated. Secondly, it means having a resume that's up to date and tailored for the employer. If I look at your resume and it doesn't say the name of the employer, or it's a resume that you could send to anybody else, it's not specific enough. It needs to be tailored for them, and I'll tell you why. Time magazine did a study and reported that the average recruiter looks at a resume for 6 seconds. That's all you get. But I did a 4-year degree and a master's and they don't care. 6 seconds is how quickly they scan them. Because people sit at home, and I'm not saying you've done this, maybe you have a friend who has, we sit at home in our pajamas and we send off boring generic resumes time and time again. Because the job market's competitive, I get it. What does that mean? If it's competitive, you've got to do even more to stand out. Supply and demand. So when we want to be professional, our resume, it's got to be up to date, it's got to stand out, it's got to have things in there that make the employer know this is for them. The next step, the third step, is your cover letter. In a cover letter, you have to be specific about the role. Of course, you want to try to find the person who's hiring you, name them right at the start. But 3 paragraphs is a structure. That first paragraph, you want to tell them about the job, you want to name it, be specific, because lots of companies are hiring for lots of different jobs at once. Once you've named the job and you've named the position, you want to say exactly why you're interested in working there. Why is that the perfect job for you? Now, once you mention this at the start, in the second paragraph, you want to tell them how you can help them. Tell them about your experience, what you've done, but make it about them. Show them that if you've got experience in social media and digital marketing, how that will help them in the role you're hiring for. If you've got experience in leadership and you've grown a team or raised $10,000 for a charity, how does that help them? Highlight the key skills that you've got and relate that back to the job criteria. Also, if the job that's hiring for, if you can find the website and read about the company's vision or their values, make sure those keywords are in there. If they say we're hiring for these key skills, use those keywords. And finally, the last part of that cover letter, make sure you have a clear and concise ending to that letter. Thank them for their time and tell them that you are either looking forward to speaking with them soon, or tell them that you're available for whatever more information they need, but have a sign off that makes it compelling, that they know that you wrote it for them. And don't be afraid to reinforce some of the information you wrote above. So, in the professionalism, we want to make sure we're putting our best selves out there. We want to make sure our LinkedIn, our resume, our cover letter, they're all consistent. If your LinkedIn says, I'm a risk taker, and then your cover letter says, I'm very conservative, you have a dissonance. So make sure all of those things are aligned. And if you've done the first part of this month where we've dug into our values and you know what you want, you know what you're about, those 3 should fall into place. So this month in the Learn Week, we'll share with you a ton of resources for your career. Let's shape it up. Let's make you as professional and job ready as we possibly can. And next week when we start experimenting, let's start putting that out into the world. The 5th part of the Campus Leadership Challenge on Careers in August is all about how you can get an edge. Now, I like to say you want to have something you can point at. You want to create something or bring something into existence. So few people will use the free resources that are available with their spare time. Making a website, making a podcast, making a YouTube channel, making a video series or starting a challenge, doing a fundraiser. Something that just takes a little bit of elbow grease and a little bit of effort are the sorts of things that will help you stand out. From my experience, when I was a first year at university, the first thing I did in the student leadership space was become a first year rep at college. And when I was in that role, I went away to a conference that I had the opportunity to go to. And at that conference, I heard a keynote speaker named Hugh Evans, and he talked about this idea of raising money to help feed people around the world who didn't have access to food, clean drinking water. And I thought, done, amazing, I'm gonna do that. And I started a fundraiser. Now, I'd never done this before, I didn't know how to do it on social media, but I figured it out. On the back of raising that money, in my second year, I got voted in as the ball director. Why? Because the ball cost about $22,000. So as a student, I needed to raise $22,000 selling chocolate, selling tickets, running barbecues, all that money going back into the college and to my peers to run this big event. Now in my third year, after 2 years of applying for jobs in the background and not even getting an interview, I finally got an interview with an engineering firm. And I sat down in front of them and I had my little resume, which was terrible. And I still remember all they had was one big strip of yellow highlighter through the line that said, raised $24,000 from college bedroom. Raised a little bit more than we actually needed. And they said, how did you do that? And I told them how we gamified it, we made it competitions, and we recruited people, and I emptied my wardrobes and filled them with Cadbury chocolates to sell to people. And they said, wow, if you can make $22,000 selling $1 chocolates, and you could probably help us in our business. And it was the thing that I did on the side, the thing that I created from that little bit of initiative that helped me get the first job, which I then worked night shifts all summer, and that turned into a graduate engineering job years later. Now, I didn't do the first bit of this challenge around values. I didn't explore that. Actually, engineering wasn't the right career for me, but I slogged away at it regardless, and I found my way in because of all the things I did on the side, even though I wasn't passionate about it. So creating something or bringing something into existence will help you stand out. It'll help you get an edge because you've done something by definition that other people haven't. So where do you start? Run a fundraiser. Create a fundraiser for a cause you care about, whether it's $100, $500, $1,000 or $10,000 or more. Try to create something out of thin air. Secondly, try starting a business, a social enterprise, or a nonprofit. Learn about what it takes, go through the steps, set it up, register, see if you can solve a real business for someone. Or thirdly, create a project. Get a couple of buddies or friends together and see if you can create something that just helps one other person. If you do any of these initiatives, you'll be bringing something into existence. The second thing you can do to get an edge is volunteer. So whether this is at a college, at a club, or in the community, doing something where you step up into a leadership role, where you have a title that you can point at and say, I'm the head of whatever it happens to be. And in this role, I did these things. I don't believe leadership is service, but it gives you I believe leadership is service. I don't believe leadership is about a title or a position. I believe it is about service. But having that title gives you something to point at. You're able to say, I was in this role. And then when I was in this role, I did these things. So to get an edge, try to get yourself in a leadership role and go for something you don't feel qualified for. Volunteering roles are not paid jobs where, by definition, where you have to have 7 years experience. They're there to learn, they're there to try, they're there to experiment and grow. And there's some amazing volunteering roles that are done by super qualified people, way more than I. But lots of them at a student level, they're a place to develop. So lean into them, go for something you don't feel ready for. Go for a treasurer, a secretary, or a president, or an event manager, or a marketing manager. And learn the skills you need to be good at it. Don't say I'm not going to do it because I don't have the skills yet. So to get an edge, either create something, get into a leadership role, or put yourself out there in a way to help others. If you can't think of anything else, find people who are in leadership roles, who are starting a business or are volunteering, and go along. Hang out, stick around, see if there's anything you can do to contribute. The more you give, the more you will get. And if you do that, you'll get an edge and you'll stand out in your job search. So there are 5 steps in the Campus Leadership Challenge Careers Month in August to help you stand out. Number 1, digging into your values. Why do you do what you do? Number 2, looking at your skills and your strengths, remembering now is the time to develop. Number 3 is all about your networks. It's all about who you know and who you'll come to know. Step 4, professionalism. We want to make sure this month that we get you job ready, that you do exactly what you need to do. So when you're applying for the job or when they're checking out your LinkedIn page, schmick and span, and they're confident in hiring you. And number 5, we want to give you an edge. We want to show you how you can create or start something or get involved such that when an employer says, tell me about a time you're in a leadership role, or tell me about a time you did something that was challenging or unexpected, or a time you went above and beyond, you've got countless examples because you're out there actually doing. So we're so thrilled you're with us for the Campus Leadership Challenge this month in August, looking at careers. I'm thrilled to see you at some of our events coming up. We're pumped with the guests that we're able to put in front of you. And I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. So have an amazing month, enjoy this Learn Week, and we'll speak with you all very soon. See you later.